In this video, we are going to do 16.05 my member. All right, so I have the file opened up in Racket. So let's just look for the problem statement. Notice that the data design steps are done above. So just a quick review, we are consuming a list of any where it's either empty or cons any list of any. And here's the interpretation. It's a list of anything, right? It's a list of any data type. So it could be strings, numbers, booleans, etc. And here is a template that processes that data. Okay, so design the function my-member that consumes a list of any and produces true if the given value is in the given list. For example, my member Bob, the string Bob, is Bob in this list, right, of cons 2 on the cons string Bob on the cons 99 empty, right? It should produce true. And you can think of an example we'll write shortly that will produce false. Finish the uncompleted function design steps 1 through 5 above. You are not allowed to use the BSL function member because that defeats the purpose, right? We're creating and writing the member function called my-member ourselves. All right, and they gave us a signature here. So my-member consumes an any, right? So that would be, the string Bob, it can be any value. And then a list of any, and then produces a boolean. Produces true if the given value is in the list. All right. So pause the video and try to work through this on your own. I'll move our spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right. I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it. So now let's go over together. So this is the signature. They gave us the purpose. Next, let's just stub this out. So my member, if I can spell that right, member. All right. So it consumes anything for the first value. In this case, it would be the string Bob. So this is what we want to find in this list. So let's call the parameter here findD, right? findD. And then we are given an a list and any list as the second parameter, right? A list of any. We have to produce a boolean. So false seems like a good default. Okie dokie. Let's write some tests here. All right. So check expect. My member is the string Bob in the empty list, right? No, there's nothing in this list, so we should produce false. Check expect my member cons 1 on a cons Alice empty, right? Is Bob in this list? No, Bob's not in this list, right? We have the number 1 and the string Alice, right? So it should produce false. All right, and so that's this is a 0 long list. This is a 2 long list. Let's do one that's 1 long, actually. Check expect my member. All right, is Joe in the list cons, let's say true empty, right? No, there's a boolean in this list, right? There are no strings in this list, and Joe is not in here. And let's do one where Joe is in here, right? Let's do a 1 long list where we have the list that contains the string Joe. Right, so this should produce true. Okay. All right, so that is 2 long list, 1 long, 1 long, one long that's passing, 1 long that's failing, etc. Right, this one's passing, this one's failing. This is a 2 long list where I forgot to pass Bob in here, my bad. Right, is Bob in this list of cons 1 Alice? No, it's not, right? So let's do one where Bob is in this list, right? So check expect. Let's put Bob way at the end here. And like so, right, is Bob in this list? Right, yeah, he's all the way at the end, but he is in this list of cons 1 and cons Alice and a cons Bob empty. So this should produce true. And you can also copy these, this example up here, right? Is Bob in the list cons 2, cons Bob, cons 99 empty? In fact, let me just do that. So check my member. Oh, right, this is already, there we go. And this should produce true because Bob is in this list. Okay, so I'm going to run the test against the stub here. All mismatches, that's just fine. Comment out the stub. Grab the template up here. This is the general structure for recursive functions. Rename this my member. Make sure the signature matches because we are consuming 2 arguments rather than just 1. And we call the argument findD, right? All right, so now really pause the video. Hopefully this should be all the mental scaffolding needed to write the function my-member. I'm going for spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm assuming that you guys took a good swing at it, so now let's go over it together. So my member of Bob empty, right, is Bob in this empty list, right? So that would be the base case here, right? So we should produce false, right? If we're given an empty list, we should best produce false, because if you're looking for something in an empty list, well, there's nothing in the list, so yeah. All right, so what do we do in this else case, right? So let's look at one of our examples here. Let's look at the one long list, right? So is Joe in the list cons true empty, right? So what we need to do here is we need to compare the value that we're given, which is going to be in findD, and then the first of every list, right? The first item of every list. In this case, it's the Boolean true. In this case, it's the string Jones. And in the recursive case, it's going to be 1 Alice, and then Bob, and then 99, etc. So we need findD here, actually, right? Because we got to use the parameter that we're given, and we want to see if it's in the list, right? So we got to compare it. And you have to use equal ha, right? Because equal ha will work for any data type, right? You pass in any two any's, and it will give you whether those two equal or not, right? So that's what we need. So since this is a Boolean, we need to find things that use, consume, and produce Booleans and such, right? And the combinator, you would look in the documentation, right? What we need here is an if, right? That would be the combinator, right? You can also deduce this from the examples here, right? Sometimes Bob is in the list, sometimes he's not in the list, sometimes we have to ignore values, sometimes we don't. Kind of indicates some sort of decision making is going on here, all right? So what happens if he is in this list, right? This is the first case, right? So if has 3 parts, the condition, the true branch, and then the false branch. What do we want to do if he is in this list, right? So this one, let's say this example here. Is Bob in the list, is he in the list cons 1 on the cons Alice empty? No, he's not, right? So produce false, right? But what about this case, right? Is Bob in cons 1 on the cons Alice and the cons Bob empty? Yeah, he is. And then let's look at this test, right? Is Joe, right, actually let's look at this test. Is Joe in the list cons Joe empty, right? He is in this list, right? So we should just produce true, right? We're done. We don't have to make a recursive call, right? If we did something like this, so this is the right answer. We produce true, right? If we did something like do a recursive call on my member, right, with the value passed in, the rest of the inner list, my bad, right? This is a bug, right? Because it will keep looking through the rest of the list, right? So in this case, right, this test, right, cons 2, cons Bob 99, right? Is Bob in this list, right? The string Bob. He is. He's in the second position. Once we found Bob, we shouldn't keep looking through the rest of the list, right? We're done. So we should just produce true. So you shouldn't have done, another recursive call here. Just produce true, all right? All right. Otherwise, right, we should keep looking through the list, right? We need a function that does this purpose, right? Produce true if the given value is in the list. So we have to keep looking, right, to call my member on the rest of the list. And also, again, my member takes in 2 arguments, so we have to pass in what we're trying to find. All right. And we assume that this works for the rest of the list, no matter how long it is. And we run it, and it passes, and it's fine. All right, so last step, test review and refactor. We can refactor this. Gonna paste it, copy and paste it, comment it out. So as I said before, right, you can factor nested if statements, right, into con branches that sort of fan out in this style. So if we find the value, right, the first of the thing in the list is what we're trying to find, right, then produce true. Otherwise, just look through the rest of the list, right? Call my member on the rest of the list. Keep looking, right? It's like so. So these two are functionally equivalent. They do the exact same thing. If I run the test, it still does pass. It's just a matter of style. All right, so just submit this into hand-in and make sure you pass the creator side test. And of course, comment things out, look things in the stepper, right? Step things through to see the mechanical steps if you're interested.